Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy, doing the final installment on the Council of Seven Guides exercise that was suggested, put out there by Natalia over at Ouroboros. So I will put her, well, I tell you what, I won't put a link to her, I'll put a link maybe to her channel in general. So, because this is supposed to be secret. So she put out the Council of Seven and the Seven Guides. I'll call them exercises. And then she did a follow-up. She had a light bulb went off for her, and she did a follow-up. And she said, "Oh, don't read, don't listen to this until you've finished your councils and your guides, however many, whatever you're going to do, and then come back and then do this suggestion." So she wanted you to go in blind and to the Council of Seven and the Seven Guides. But then there's this follow-up exercise. So if you're going to do these, then technically you shouldn't watch what I'm doing. But you should go ahead and do your videos and then go look at her third video about looking at these from a different angle. So, so now I'm going to tell you what that angle was. So again, this is your opportunity to depart. So what she was thinking was in terms of whatever we said about the decks that were part of our council, or the seven guides, as being kind of a projection or a reflection of ourselves, which of course can certainly be the case. She's a psychotherapist, and a psychotherapist is a certain sort of therapist. And so she's coming from a particular angle in terms of therapy. So what I did, because I was quite aware and have been quite aware that many times I get a deck, maybe it's a part of myself that's neglected or something, but it's something that I need. So it's almost more like when you have a friend who's really valuable. You don't want them to be exactly like you. You might not be able to tolerate them. But you want them to, you want to have some of the same qualities, some of the same likes and dislikes, but you also want them to have their own set of qualities, personality traits, likes and dislikes that pull you in a different direction and that are things that you need. So some of these decks, yes, I can see how they are reflections of my personality, or maybe even how I find them easier to tolerate because they're recognizable aspects of my own personality. Others are more an acknowledgement of things that I don't have in my personality. And I'm not going to say that they're underdeveloped qualities or they're shadow qualities or anything like that. I think they're just not perfectly me, they're just not me. But that's why it's great to live in a world full of all kinds of people. And to have all kinds of decks is so that I can, purchase decks like the surrender cards, where it's like the minute I saw the name surrender cards, oh, I need those. I need those. I need to practice some surrendering. That is not natural to my character, but I can recognize that I need it at this particular stage in my life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the decks, and I'm going to do partly what she was suggesting, because there is value in that. But I'm also going to say when I really think that a deck is more about something that is supposed to complement my character, as opposed to being a reflection of it. So, or maybe like the first one here, I'm going to start with the Council of the Seven, so the tarot decks that I use. So I referred to the Centennial Waite in the way, the Smith-Waite Centennial, as an executive secretary. Now I actually am, in my current work role, an executive secretary. So you could say that's a reflection of that. I'm sort of in the sense of liking to be a helper to kind of move progress along. I can see that. But really, I'm using that deck because I need my own executive secretary. I need, it would be fine to, I can't say I need a wife because it's really not that. I need somebody to do some of the, I don't know if it's even, I do literally need somebody to do some of the, what would be considered wifely duties of a home, because of my health. If I work full time, I don't have the energy to keep things up like I would even be comfortable having them. But that person that you bounce things off of, and they tell you, I don't think that's a good idea. I just don't think it's a good idea. Have you thought about this, consequence of that? Or, somebody that you say something to them and they're like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's do it now. Let's just go. So that level of, where is the needle falling? Yes or no? Yes or no? Good, bad. And I don't always listen to it. I don't always take my tarot cards advice. But I do most of the time. I do at least take it on board. So I referred to the group of decks for my Council of Seven Tarot as plain Janes, as in most of them, I think only one. Yeah, they're mass market decks. One was not a mass market deck. One was a reprint, but it's like the basest. It's in the lowest form of reprint. I can think of myself as a plain Jane. I would even change that wording, because that wording is generally considered to have to do with appearance. And I think I even got a little, when I used it, I think I even got a little confused about how I was using it within the video. And I realized what I mean by plain Jane is more like commoners. Again, they're not thoroughbred racehorse decks, except for that one, the art history. So yeah, and yes, I'm happy to be proletariat. that works for me. And I do really appreciate, I can shuffle low Scarabeo decks, and I like that. It's a really positive thing. So I don't have a bias against mass market decks. Let's just put it that way. And I had no problem with the fact that that I hang out with the commoners, because I feel that I'm perfectly comfortable with the commoners, and that's part of who I am for sure. So the Herbal Tarot I would say was less, I mean, the herbal tarot and the baseball tarot, I referred to them as kind of hard-ass decks in terms of being fairly demanding and very willing to give you whatever truth is there, ugly or not ugly. They are truth teller decks. And yes, I see both of those qualities in myself. You know, I do dog training, and yes, I can be a hard ass with my dog training. In the sense of, you know, I do corrections. I don't know why, but people think even just anything negative, any negative reinforcement is somehow a bad thing. But I'm more of a hard ass in that if I'm going to do it this way, if I'm going to start a training and do it this way, then I'm going to do it this way. And I don't care, you know, if I start to, for example, I'll take a person's dog that's been pulling and pulling, and it's like, all right, this isn't working. You need to admit that it's not working. I'm going to show you how it will work. But how it will work requires that person, often a young person, who's I don't know where it's not coming from. I don't know where they don't have this, why they don't have this in them. But it's like you're going to have to do something over and over and over again. And then within like 2 minutes of doing it over and over and over again, it's gonna click, and your dog is going to reorient. But you have to do it. So that's kind of my hard ass aspect. And when I was teaching English as a second language, it's like, all right, we're going to get this right. Yeah, we're going to get it right. And it's like we would do what they call choral repetitions, where the whole class says things together. And I'll say, all right, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. And the class would be like, like, no, I know you can do better than that. Let's not even pretend. And, you know, and some people would just kind of go, all right, well, maybe we're not into it today. And it's like, no, we're doing it. And you're doing it better than you just did, because that was awful. and usually, sorry, I am recovering from some cold and flu. They usually take it in good humor, because really I deliver it in good humor, because usually the awfulness is pretty humorous. Yes, I can be a truth teller, and I, to be honest, guard against that a little bit. So, so those are things in those two decks I recognize, the hard ass, the truth teller. But in the herbal tarot, one of the things I mentioned is that it tends to redirect me and say, yes, I know you're asking about this, but really this is more important in your life right now. It redirects me. And so I value that deck not because it's, you know, it's helping me prioritize when I don't even realize that something has slipped off the radar. And to me, that's a need. So that's almost kind of like the Smith-Waite, except the Smith-Waite I go to for direct questions. And what I value in that deck is that it gives me those direct questions, you know, direct answers to, not always perfectly understandable, not always correct, but it is answering the question that I asked. Whereas the herbal tarot will pull the reins right out of my hands. And again, I think that's something that I need, because I will get on a track and this is what I'm doing and this is, you know, we're going. And so it says, oh no, you're not. No, there's something else here that's really more important. Get off of your track and address this. And so that's something that I need. Now, do I do that to other people? I don't know. I don't think they're giving me the opportunity. Maybe I would if they did. I will say this. I do question things. I don't really look at the herbal tarot as questioning things, but maybe it's kind of comes from, but there is an element there of saying, you think that this is what needs to be done, or this is what's important right now, and it's not, it's this other thing. So, questioning an assumption is certainly something that I do and can be quite annoying regarding other people. They don't always appreciate it. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they can take it on board, but not always. So it could be that I value and am willing to tolerate that from that deck because, it is an aspect of my character in the sense of, when the cards lay out and it's like, all right, wait a minute. This is clearly telling me about something else in my life and not about the question I just asked. And so, I'm able to make the shift and not try to make those cards fit the question I originally asked. I'm able to allow that questioning and that redirection to occur without as much trouble maybe as some people. So there was the cats, the mystical cats. I talked about the gentleness and the whimsy. And I think that is complementary. Those are complementary qualities that I need in my life more, and that's why those appeal to me. Or the mystical cats. That's why that deck appeals to me. The Paulina Tarot, I think, I called it the artsy fartsy deck. I do have an artsy fartsy aspect, and I have artsy fartsy friends. Again, not serious artists, but just artsy fartsy, and enjoys, appreciates art, and having maybe some nonlinear thinking going on in the way they go about their life. I value that in other people, and I definitely feel like that is part of me. And it's part of me that I would say I'm not as in touch with as I would like to be, or would be, how would I say it? Beneficial for my mental health. Would be probably better for me to have more of that. But, society and the need to make money and stuff like that, just and my limited energy because of my Lyme disease just makes it real tricky to have the time to get that in there. And I'm not necessarily a naturally artistic and visually artistic person. I just like doing it, I just, again, it's a nice departure. It's over to one side of who I am, and it's a side that I need. It complements that hard ass side, and gives some release to the hard ass side, the disciplinarian side. So the tarot, the art history tarot for past lives, I call the cleric, or somebody that provides spiritual lessons. I don't know. You'd have to ask somebody else if I ever provide somebody with spiritual lessons. Yeah. One of the things that I mentioned is that it had kind of a limited role. It came in and I used it to understand something, to understand some persistent issues, and then its purpose was fulfilled, essentially, and I've kept the deck because of the possibility of, doing readings for other people. So it could be that, sometimes, again, might be kind of a truth teller aspect in terms of coming in. If somebody is asking me about something, I will certainly give my opinion on my perspective on something. And then, they take it away and they take from it whatever they take from it. So, maybe not spiritual lessons so much as maybe understanding or perspective, maybe coming to me for understanding or perspective. People will come to me for a different perspective on things, actually, sometimes. So that is something that my friends will sometimes value in me. So the Thunder Bay conver I called a cipher, and I knew that wasn't quite the right word. And I was thinking of the Rain Man. A cipher, for me, it was a cipher in the sense that it's difficult to understand and it requires it's difficult for me to understand. So it requires me to look at it kind of from a different angle, or to ask a second question, or so I sure hope that I'm not as obtuse as I find that deck. And what I would say about that deck, and I called it the Savant mainly because when I do delve into, when I try to make sense, when I do try to cipher the cipher, when I do try to cipher what it's given me, usually it takes me in some interesting and valuable places. So the message that it gives is not in any way direct, but it sends me down a path that usually provides some sort of valuable information. And I would not say that, again, I hope I'm not that obtuse with people. I think, again, my hard-ass truth teller aspect is more direct. And I had a friend who once, I can't remember what she said about me, but it was essentially that I managed to be really direct without, harming anybody, which is great. That would be my preference. But what I think, why I think I like this deck, why I like it at all, it's really quite ugly, is that I like following a path like that. I like, as long as I've got enough to go on, I kind of like that. I like that search. So when I say it's a cipher or a savant, I think it's less saying that about me than it is about why I find it interesting and attractive and worth having on the council. And I think one of the things too is that the artsy-fartsy non-linear part of my personality, it's just like, I refer to, I talk about my relationship with the Fool in the tarot. Give me a cliff to jump off of, let's do it. I don't usually do things that most people would call foolish, but I'm often willing to do things that other people are like, well, I don't know how to do that. Well, we haven't done that before. And it's like, well, here we go. Let's see what happens. And I think that's part of the appeal for card reading to me, is the random aspect that, you're choosing randomly and you're making meaning out of what comes up. And so I enjoy that process. And the unreadability, for me, or, given just a clue, given just enough to kind of start free associating into something that ends up actually applying to the question in a useful way, that appeals to me. That the indirection kind of appeals to me. Do I want it every day? No. Would I use that deck as that right hand executive secretary? Never. I don't need that level of aggravation normally, because it is aggravating. But maybe for certain tricky questions, it can be useful. So I value it. I value that. It's like I value the monkey wrench that comes flying out of the universe. And that deck to me like throws that monkey wrench at me and says, hey, what do you make of that? How about that? You didn't expect that, did you? And it's like, all right, how is that an answer to my question? I don't get it. But then I turn and I look at where the monkey wrench fell, and it was next to a book that was, that had to do with the question, or when I picked up the book, it flew open to a page that was, so it's all that sort of randomness stuff. So it appeals to me. It isn't something I need, certainly, but it's something that appeals to an aspect of my personality. All right, as for the guides, the oracles are almost purely things I need. I go to them because I need some different perspectives. And that's going to save this from being an hour long. That's what I look like. That's what the Shaman's Oracle, the medicine cards, and the Enchanted Map. I talk how they are kind of different scales, the Enchanted Map being the big picture. And I think I said telescope, but I probably should have said wide angle lens. And then the medicine cards are another step. You're seeing a map of a given area, and then the Shaman's Oracle is kind of a microscope, getting at exactly what's happening at the moment. The Fairies Oracle is, I said, a friend from another world, giving me a different perspective. Now, could some people see me maybe as a friend from another world? Well, sure. I read tarot cards, so yeah. Or there is that aspect. I teach English as a second language, so for the immigrants, I'm somebody from another world. When I teach dog obedience, I'm kind of interpreting the dog language and how to get along with your dog. So people could see me as someone from another world. But I think that, people could do that a lot of times. I don't try to be that. I don't see myself as somebody who walks around the world thinking, or I don't meet people and think, oh, I'm from another world, and so I can influence them in some way. No, just, we're all from another world, right? We're all different. So yeah, I think it's just something I need. It's just a perspective. It's that fairy, fae, fantasy perspective, and I do love fantasy. Angel cards. I think the angel cards are kind of grounding. I didn't say that then, but they simplify things, and that's very grounding. I think that's something I need. My tendency, look at all of that stuff there that I don't use back there, is to complicate things. And so I value the simplicity that I get out of their little single word answers. So that's something I need. The surrender cards are something that I need. They're something I need to practice, that letting go. Is it a part of my life, that letting go? Yes, because I have, I have the Lyme disease, and my ability to do things is far different than what I want to do and what I was able to do in the past. So, and that is a constant process of surrendering. And that's kind of, the crazy, sexy love notes, the reminders. That's what they are. They're pretty reminders. I am not a pixie dust person. I'm not a fairy. I love the fairies. I'm happy to have some pixie dust come in, but it's because they're, it's that childlike energy, and I tend to be a serious person. And so having that, I will say this, I do like to how would you say? So with the crazy, sexy love notes, they have the bright, let me grab this one. They have these nice, so listen to your body. It's a pretty neutral sort of a message. It's not preachy, but it's delivered with I don't know if it's vibrancy or whatever. One of the things that's coming to mind is like a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, and it's like the image kind of helps me to focus on something that I might be resistant to. And so I was thinking, well, do I do that, or have I done that? Again, with that hard-ass quality, at the same time, I do try to soften that a little bit, mainly by having a sense of humor about myself and the extent to which anybody has to pay attention to me. I don't go into a class of any kind or obedience, with a gun. You're going to do it. You're going to do it now. You're going to do it my way. It's more like, all right, this is the learning experience, so it's more encouragement, I guess. And I guess I would find these cards, they're reminders, but they're intended to be encouragement. And I do try to be an encouraging person. So these are encouraging reminders to myself. So maybe I am being encouraging to myself because that's what I need right now. I wouldn't even say that's what I need right now. It's what I need. It's a human thing. It is what I need. In my life, I don't have anything else functioning that way in my life. On a daily basis, I do have encouraging family and friends. But they're not here to nag me in an encouraging way, to listen to my body. What is the other one I have out right now? There's the play, which my dogs remind me of, but there's spruce up your nest. Isn't that isn't that sugar? So yeah, clean. I need to clean and declutter. So yeah, I need that encouragement. I need to see it regularly in order to swallow the medicine. And I think that's all of them. I think that's all I have to say in terms of reflection on how the cards interact with, how the decks interact with me, how their focus or character, if that's what you want to call it, jibes with my personality, the extent to which they reflect an aspect of me or a not aspect of me that I need to have some sort of complementary influence to keep me from being too me, too serious, too too focused in one direction when I shouldn't be, too inclined to complicate things, all of these things. You know, we all have aspects of our personality we need to offset. So, all right, there it is. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.